All right, it is the 5th of March 2024, a beautiful, bright new day. Good morning, welcome to Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Indemuli. How hot is the coffee where you are?
Name is Julie Stanley Nyerungita. Fred, kama Nairobi
kameanza. But there's something I'm happy about. Ulisikia Arsenal walifanya mambo gani jana usiku?
This is Tuesday. This is Tuesday.
Yesterday you were threatening at Yaya. We'll be here no matter what.
You'll be here no matter what.
Yes.
Arsenal fans. But are you sure you're going to win this cup?
Tuendelee na show.
It's a Biashara Tuesday, karibu sana. And today, this particular day, we talk about matters savings, personal savings, as well as e-teams. You've probably heard of e-teams, or maybe not. We'll be teaching you all about e-teams later on. But right now, let's get into the headlines.
Yes, very interesting headlines this morning. Court blow for Ruto Gachagua over tribalism. That's a big headline on the Standard.
On the Daily Nation, KRA tax shocker for farmers, businesses. And this is what I'm telling you, we'll be getting into that discussion in a few matters. e-team system.
On the People Daily, why expectant mothers are on their own.
Wow.
Matters health.
On Taifa Leo, mwanaume mpango wa kando kulipwa. Sijui kama upo tayari.
Matters business on the Business Daily, men to cover multiple wives in state health insurance scheme.
So maneno mpango ya kando on both papers. And on the Star,
grounded helicopters cripple police air power. That's the Star this morning. We'll be looking at this and more later on. First,
all right, let's take a look at the traffic. And today, the traffic, I'm going all the way to Mombasa and seeing how the roads are looking like in Mombasa. So the road
they call happy hour on the Nyali Bridge.
So right now, the road that you're looking at, so this is the Nyali Road. It has a few yellow patches, a few red patches. So this is, as the Google map shows, not really sure how the roads are looking like on this particular road. If you're in Mombasa, kindly tell us how the roads are looking like on this place, just before you hit that Sabasaba, as well as those feeder roads there, a few patches, but nonetheless, Mombasa looks great. Should probably visit there to actually see how these roads are looking like as well. Let's take a look at some of this, the weather forecast for today. So first off, we do start with the Lake Victoria Basin, Rift Valley. Do expect in the morning a chance of rain over a few places around the Lake Victoria Basin as well as the Rift Valley. In the afternoon, expect some showers and thunderstorms of a few places. Into the night, showers of a few places. The maximum temperatures in these particular areas, 39 degrees Celsius as well as 13 degrees Celsius. Let's take a look at now elsewhere into the Lake Victoria Basin as well as Rift Valley. Well, we've taken a look at that. Into now the next bit. Right, my screen is quite right. Now, so into the northwestern as well as Turkana, Samburu counties into the morning. Some sunny intervals, some getting into the afternoon as well, sunny intervals. And into the night, do expect to be partly cloudy. Maximum temperatures in Turkana as well as Samburu counties, 39 degrees Celsius. The minimum, 14 degrees Celsius. Wow. That's for today. Elsewhere, so that's the same for the northwestern as well as Turkana, Samburu counties. Into the East Rift Valley, including Nairobi, into the morning, some cloudy, breaking into sunny intervals. Getting into the afternoon, some showers of a few places. Into the night, partly cloudy. Maximum temperature is expected to be about 31 degrees Celsius and the minimum 7 degrees Celsius. So that's over the highlands of East Rift Valley. Moving on into into another region, as we take a look at the weather forecast for you. Marsabit as well as Mandera, sunny intervals into the morning as well as the afternoon. Into the night, partly cloudy, maximum temperatures 39 degrees Celsius. That's quite high. The minimum temperature is about 18 degrees Celsius. So that is according to the Kenya Meteorological Department. Right. let's move on to something else now. Get into the news diary for you to what to expect this particular morning. And we do start off with the itinerary of President William Ruto today, who is expected to be addressing the East Africa Legislative Assembly, YALA, today as it convenes in Nairobi. So this plenary session, scheduled to run until the 20th of March, will bring together members of Kenya's parliament, commissioners and ambassadors from East African Community partner states. So that's the first as we flip the page with you. Matters NHIF draft report. So the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that's EACC, will today be launching the report on graft loopholes at the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF. Stand by right here, number one home of untold stories for that. Matters courts for you. Former Nairobi Governor, that is Evans Kidero, will today be appearing before the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court for the hearing of a suit seeking to recover 58 million Kenyan shillings from the Nairobi County government. And as well, Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale is expected to continue his official visit. It's a 3-day visit, which began yesterday, where he is hosted by his Egyptian counterpart, General Mohammed Ahmed Zaki. So delegations from Nairobi and Cairo are expected to discuss regional security as well as implementation of cooperation agreements on maritime and aerial security, among other issues. And finally, matters sports. So the trials for the African Games begin today as well as tomorrow at the Nyayo National Stadium. So the Athletics Kenya will select a team to represent the country at the Africa Games in Accra. And finally, now let's take a look at today in history and see what to expect, what happened some time back. And we do start with back in 2016, where influential Sudanese opposition leader Hassan al-Turabi passed away on Saturday in 2016 at the age of 84. That's the news diary for you, as well as today in history. Kiu kuingia kwenye magazetini sasa.
Right, straight to the dailies and kick off with the Standard. Court blow for Ruto Gachagua over tribalism. That's the main headline on the front page of the Standard. It talks about the KRA assistants who were recently employed, and the judge has declared the appointment of 1,402 revenue assistants unconstitutional for being skewed in favor of Kikuyu and Kalenjin communities. KRA Chairman Anthony Mwaura's home constituencies got the lion's share of the slots. The story is on page 10 of the Standard, and you can read that. Kiharu constituency and Thika Town got 50 and 40 slots respectively, while other constituencies got 1. Still on the front page of the Standard, the other big story given prominence there is about doctors' wars. Doctors to down tools in the next 7 days. Medics stage demonstrations across the country over failure to post interns and postgraduate fees they claim is exorbitant. They are vowed to go on strike starting March 11th. That's next week, I think on Tuesday. And yes, an image there, a picture of the demonstrating doctors, members of the KMPDU in Nairobi yesterday. Other stories featuring on the front page of the Standard: Nakuru, a pale shadow of former industrial giant. Kenyans easily remember the scent of pyrethrum or the aroma from Elliott's or Toasty. Yes, Toasty. Toasty reminds me when I was young. The warmth of blankets from Nakuru was felt in many homes, but all these are either gone or cannot be recognized because the industries died or downscaled. It's a continuation of their special report on the Standard on the dying industries across Kenya, today featuring Nakuru. That's on pages 4 and 5. Another story, and this is a very interesting one.
Oh, yes.
Lawyer and tailor battle over burnt Italian suit. A lawyer has taken his tailor to court after he failed to pay him 35,000 shillings for a suit he was to repair, but ended up burning it. The two entered into an agreement that he says hasn't been honored. And that story is on page 3.
An interesting one here.
Okay, let's take a look at more highlights on the top strip of the Standard. Matters AU job for Raila. Mount Kenya rumbles with talk of new alliances. That matters politics. We'll be discussing this with my panelists later. Elsewhere, Safaricom, Ethiopia to surpass Kenya. In business, bid to break Kenya Power monopoly. And finally, in sports, AFC Leopards get back their loud roar. On the back page of the Standard, matters sports, Champions League. The fixtures today. Bayern versus Lazio at 11 p.m. Real Madrid versus RB Leipzig. 11 p.m. as well. Real Sociedad versus PSG and Man City versus Copenhagen. All these games will be played at 11 p.m. tonight. And they say that Bayern most at risk in Champions League. Yes, they face the mighty Man City. And I know it's too early for the papers to have the news of what the great Arsenal did to a team called Sheffield United. They managed to score 6 goals past Sheffield United yesterday night. And that means Arsenal is keeping hopes alive of
6 goals is just, I think we should agree, past 5 goals is just show off. Yes.
Okay, then yesterday the Arsenal was simply showing off. And that's the Standard today.
Right, let's talk matters tax because that's the front page of Daily Nation. KRA tax shocker for farmers, businesses, and it says taxman launches new SMS-based ATM system, but move is likely to spark outrage. And they say it's a U-turn, so the Kenya Revenue Authority has rescinded its decision to exempt farmers as well as small businesses with an annual turnover of less than 5 billion Kenya shillings from the requirement to produce electronic invoices for their sales as the government moves to seal leakages and boost collections from hard-to-tax areas. So more is on page 7 of this. But then around 8:30, around 9 a.m., we'll be discussing this conversation broadly so that you can understand what is ATMs and how can you, as a farmer and also a small-scale trader, getting into this mix, how do you really understand this conversation? We'll be having this with a KRA tax expert. But away from that, on the bottom scroll, what doctors want will not settle for less despite the threats on our lives. So 1,210 as quoted there. So the medical interns who are yet to be posted despite the internship policy stating that they should be posted 30 days after they graduate. And listed there are the proposals by the union. Away from that, the top scroll, Kenya launches Raila campaign for top AU post and Mudavadi woos African envoys in city. We'll skip the next because we'll be getting into that on the back page. But on the right scroll, go ahead, court declares the way for housing bill. So the High Court, which is a Kisumu, the Kisumu High Court has dismissed a petition challenging the Affordable Housing Bill 2023, saying there was adequate public participation before it was passed. And so the petitioner moved to court. So this is at a glance of this page 6. Moved to court last year, saying the process was rushed without meaningful and adequate public participation. The petition is named Lawrence Omule Appeal. Other highlights on this paper, dramatic twist to dead Pepsi bosses' property wrangle. They say the Tanzanian at the center of a tussle for property owned by former Pepsi Cola director William Utilangi Mulwa told police that he was tricked into signing documents that sparked the cross-border assets battle. That is on page 3. Cue to flip the pages to the back page. And that story there. County bursaries at risk of being embezzled. That is according to the control of budget. Margaret Nyakango pictured there. But another story, deal between Koome and Sakaja sees court returned to City Hall. At the very top scroll, whereas motorsport. Hyundai's New Veil leads 29 crews to the World Rally Championship Safari Rally in Naivasha. That is on page 33. And that is the Daily Nation for you this morning.
Alright, tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Habari tofauti kabisa. Kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo wanazungumzia mwanamume mpango wa kando kulipwa. Ni uamuzi wa mahakama ambayo iliamuru kwamba mpango wa kando huyo alichangia katika kupatikana kwa mali iliyomilikiwa na rafiki yake huyo wa kike, na hivyo ana haki ya kupata mgao. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili wa hili gazeti. Wanasema mwanamume huyo aliwasilisha kesi mahakamani baada ya kutemwa na mama huyo licha ya uhusiano wa muda mrefu. Na mahakama ya Nairobi imemwagiza mwanamke huyo amlipe huyo mwanamume ambaye alikuwa ameishi naye kwa miaka 25 30% ya mali zilizopatikana walipokuwa wakiishi pamoja. 30% no less. Habari zingine zilizopewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Maandamano ya madaktari washiriki maandamano jijini Nairobi hapo jana. Maandamano hayo yaliitishwa na muungano wa KMPDU. Na madaktari wale wakazunguka wakibeba mabango pale. Kwingineko, SGR yazidisha uwezo wa reli kubeba mizigo. Masuala ya biashara, vidokezo zaidi. Na mambo ya ukabila kwenye KRA. KRA yapigwa breki kuajiri watu 1400. Vidokezo zaidi vipo pale juu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Masuala ya kilimo, upungufu wa mbolea wazua hofu. NCPB yakiri mahitaji ya mbolea yameongezeka, hivyo kuzua uhaba huo nchini. Na kwenye spoti ni kufa na kupona kwa Bayern. UEFA itachuana na Lazio leo ikilenga kufuata kichapo cha mkondo wa kwanza. Hizo ndizo habari zilizopewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo.
Right. Let's go to People Daily now. And they say, why expectant mothers are on their own? So according to a hospital boss, for the last 12 months, we have not received any reimbursements, and yet we are expected to continue operating the same scheme. And they say hospitals turn away women after Ruto administration fails to permit, or rather remit, money for Linda Mama facility. Boys on page 4. The highlights on this front page. On the left, ex-Kibaki aide caught up in gun scuffle. So Varsity investigates claims that Professor Wanjohi joined pistol-wielding bodyguards to confront colleague. From that, Bundavadi rallies support for Raila. And on the top, matters health. Medics protest over police brutality. So picture there, members of Kenya Medical and Practitioners Pharmacist Dentist Union, KMPDU, protesting outside Ministry of Health headquarters in Nairobi yesterday. At the very top scroll, Kenyan sets East Africa bungee jumping record on page 3. But speaking of page 3, further is a very interesting story in page 3, on the left now, the left side of page 3. So they say heads who let students block Ruto motorcade face criminal charges. So context on this, they say school heads in Kiambu and Murang'a counties have been warned of criminal action should they allow students to ever again block the presidential motorcade.
But we've been doing this for ages. For the president to talk to us, we block the road so that he sees us and comes out of the vehicle and he gives us something.
Oh yes, yeah. I remember the Moi times.
Yes. Oh really?
Remember the Moi times, you know?
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Kibaki wasn't doing anything like that, so you can't remember anything beyond.
You will not believe that I was there in the Moi times.
No, that's a lie.
Drinking the maziwa
Nyayo.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the People Daily for you.
All right.
And just a nutshell of what is on this paper. Two other highlights.
Let's take a look at the Star. On the Star newspaper, they speak about the police air wing. Grounded helicopters cripple police air power. Patrols have been suspended after 24 air assets the wing had from 2010 were reduced to only 4. The air wing technically dead and incapable of responding to emergencies. And on the front page, they have an image of one of the helicopters owned by the police air wing, which is stationed at the Wilson Airport. And I remember back in the day, around 2012, this police air wing was really on the spot following the death of then Minister for Internal Security, George Saitoti, and his assistant, Oro Ojode, as they were using one of the choppers to travel to Ndiwa. Other highlights on the front page of the Star. A report reveals staffing chaos in public service. Elsewhere, Ugali under threat as farmers ditch maize. And yes, changing lives. Hamisa, a woman who did not let polio ruin her life. Those are just some of other highlights that you can find on the inside pages of the Star today.
Right, from the Star to Business Daily. Gentlemen, are you by any chance polygamous? Because this big story might really have your ears. So they say meant to cover multiple wives in state health insurance scheme. So 2.8%, or about 446,230 men in Kenya are polygamous. It looks like a very low number.
How many again? 2.8%?
2.8%.
That's a huge number.
446,000.
That's a huge number.
Comparing
almost
Kenya's
500,000. Okay, probably those are the ones who are openly polygamous.
Yes.
There's that as well.
So NHIF only covered for one spouse and 5 children. And the SHIF is targeting a wide berth of that. At the very bottom, Kwale Titanium Miner to spend 1 billion shillings on staff layoffs. On the ticker, the right, how real estate put Kenyan money laundering grey list. So the 411 registered real estate agents filed only 2 suspicious transaction reports, commonly known as STRs, to the Financial Reporting Center in the 5 years to 2021. A deficiency that might be exploited by criminals who want to conceal their dirty cash. Meanwhile, farmers, small traders to file e-TIMS invoices in KRA Uton. And just a reminder, we'll be having this conversation with a KRA expert to just tell us what this means. Meanwhile, foreigners, SIGNET sales hit 1 billion shillings in February. And that is the Business Daily.
All right, and that's our cue to cross the borders, and we start off in Uganda, Kampala. The Daily Monitor talks about government warning of rising radiation exposure. National and regional referral hospitals and industries are among entities that the Atomic Energy Council in Uganda found in a December study to be operating without license or emitting radiation beyond permissible levels. Wow, worrying. That story is on page 8 of the Daily Monitor. And the other story given prominence on the front page of the Daily Monitor, big news in Kampala, Uganda. Ochola bows out with a wide smile from 1988. He's been serving as a police chief. And this is about outgoing Inspector General of Police, IGP Martins Okoth Ochola, who has handed over office to his Deputy Major General Geoffrey Tumusime Katsigazi. He's been in that force from 1988. That's big news in Kampala, Uganda today. The only other headline there on the front page, Bobi Wine pushes Mpuga case to neck, and LRA's Connie to be tried in absentia. And that is the Daily Monitor. We take a look at the New Vision. On the New Vision, still in Uganda, new salary increment plan out, over 262,000 public servants to benefit under new structure. Good news for public servants in Uganda. Salary increment is definitely something encouraging. Anywhere, anytime.
Oh, yes.
Elsewhere, President awards man who arrested clan head killer. President Yoweri Museveni there and his wife Janet pictured with the man who arrested a clan head killer. Other news, what happened in NRM CEC meeting. Ochola outlines critical issues in police as he retires. Still big news, the retirement of the IGP in Uganda. Those are the highlights from Kampala this morning.
From Kampala, let's cross to Kigali. The New Times And they say 6 industrial parks under scrutiny for pollution. Another highlight there, Congolese refugees protest killings of Tutsi Banyamulenge Hema communities. But an interesting highlight on this paper, which I also saw yesterday, matters elections in Rwanda will be happening on the 15th of July. And they've started the whole process and just sensitizing the country on the same. So they say who is eligible to vote, who is not. But then they don't really have a mention of the contestants of this, just telling you who are eligible and who are not. That is the big news in Rwanda. We from Kigali to Dodoma.
Kule Dodoma, maeneo ya Arusha na Dar es Salaam, tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi. Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi nazungumzia maumivu ya poa kwingine ya umma. Mgao wa umeme ulitikisa kwa miezi kadhaa, sasa umeanza kudhibitiwa huku bei ya sukari kwa baadhi ya maeneo ikishuka. I remember they had a problem with their sugar.
Yes.
Wachumi waibana serikali kuweka mkazo kudhibiti majanga. Dar, mgao sasa kwa heri, mikoa hii mambo bado. So mgao wa umeme, that's power rationing, and bei ya sukari.
So it's sweet news for them.
Yes, it is definitely good news for people in Tanzania. Habari njema kwa watu wa Tanzania. Habari zingine kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi, yaliyojificha nyuma watoto wauza mifuko Kariakoo. Kwingineko, sababu 7 babu duni kujiondoa wenyekiti ACT. Na kuna habari ya kutatanisha pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi, wanasema polisi mstaafu anunua jeneza lake la shilingi milioni 3. Anaonyesha jeneza lenyewe pale. Jamaa hajaondoka bado, lakini amenunua jeneza. Lakini shilingi milioni 3 ya Tanzania. Yeah. Hizo habari zimepewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi.
From gazeti la Mwananchi to the Citizen, matters business in Tanzania. They say how the banking industry has thrived under Samia. That's President Samia Suluhu, who is pictured there. And according to this quote by Tanzania Bankers Association Chair, that is Sabi, we remain optimistic about the potential for sustained growth in the banking sector and the sector's ability to support economic and social activities. The highlights on this paper, TBA's plan to empower women professionals. And they say in a concerted effort to address gender disparities in leadership roles within the banking industry, the Tanzanian Banking Association has outlined initiatives aimed at empowering women professionals. And those are the news highlights in Tanzania. Back to Kenya, to the caricature, page 10 of People Daily. Matters hot weather. There's a gentleman there has removed some of his clothing, and he says the weather is suddenly hot. I hope our creative government is not thinking of introducing another tax called high temperatures tax. Right. And that is what People Daily and Stano goes with.
Right. Cartoon on page on the Daily Nation, page 15, talks about matters UHC rollout. Doctors need the healing first. They have a hospital bed there, and the CS for Health is also there present. But the doctor inside the room says he'd like to treat himself first. I think they're making reference to the complaints by doctors under their union KMPDU, demanding for, among other things, the recruitment of intern doctors as well as better remuneration. That's the cartoon on the Daily Nation. On the Standard, page 14, senators holding a gun and frog marching governors to the Senate plenary. Yes, there's a new proposal where senators want to be questioning governors inside the plenary.
Yeah.
So instead of appearing before some committees, they actually come into the plenary and answer questions the way CSs do.
Yeah.
So will it see the light of day? And that's what the cartoon on the Standard, page 14, is referring to. Now, we'll be looking at some of these discussions later on with my panelists. If we could have that image of the panel. Oh, all right. Wakili Ndegwa Njiru will be in studio, alongside Woman Representative Kirinyaga County, Njeri Maina, and Joe Mutambu, former MP Mwingi Central. Do stand by for that conversation that will be coming your way in a short while. And of course, you can be part of it through social media on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. But remember the conversations coming later on. It be Biashara Tuesday.
Oh yes, we talk about matters digital saving. Mathenga Wawero, co-founded product and lead at Shukran, will be telling you all about this when it comes to matters digital saving and what you really need to know. Later on, also discussing matters the eTIMS system. It is focused on quite a number of the dailies this morning. So again, as a farmer, as well as a small trader, your turnover is about less than 5 million Kenyan shillings. You are really part of this conversation. How do you get into this particular system? What do you need to know when it comes to the eTIMS system? First of all, what is the eTIMS system? Stick around for that conversation. Number 2047 is our SMS number. You can always call in live. Our number's right there at the bottom of your screens.
Time now for a break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Now, the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee has organized a 3-day symposium in Naivasha that brings together top leadership of the national and county governments to assess the state of intergovernmental relations, consolidating and deepening devolution. Our Naivasha reporter Willie Dennis Njiro with the details.
The focus at the summit that kicked off today in Naivasha was all on how to make the county and national government work better together. This was the second national consultation for the two centers of governance facilitated by IGRCT, coming at a time when both county and national governments face a higher demand for better quality service by Kenyans.
The two levels of government should, in all matters, consult and cooperate, and as necessary, coordinate. We are also here to reinforce the spirit of the Constitution, that the two levels of government, in whatever they do, they should realize that although the Constitution has delineated the functions between what is devolved and what is not devolved, they are encouraged to look for opportunities to work together.
By devolving political power, responsibilities and resources to the 47 counties, the Constitution offers systems of separated authorities and roles in the two levels of government. This mostly leads to friction unless special attention is given to how these two power centers are able to work together smoothly and effectively.
They will still need to keep in good consultation, in good cooperation, in coordination. They will need to see and seize opportunities.
Keep talking, avoid disputes, and as has been emphasized this morning by the Honorable Wetangula, avoid going to court on each other.
Corruption remains a major challenge to good leadership at the county and national level. And in the conference, one of the clarion calls is for public servants to be true to their calling, to serve the people faithfully.
The issue of accountability is not only about counties, it's cross-cutting. I don't think it's a matter of lack of laws. It's a culture. Kenyans must just stop stealing from each other. It's that simple. If you get a chance to lead and the first thing you want to do is to amass wealth, then you don't go anywhere.
Currently, the two governments are taking stock of all assets owned or controlled by them across the nation for the purpose of improving their planning.
We are also undertaking the valuation of assets, whereby we are now valuing land and buildings.
We also want to insist, as Parliament, that as more resources go down, let's see more accountability also from the county level.
And promoted. Reporting for TV 47 from Naivasha in Nakuru County, I'm Willie Dennis Njiro.
Meanwhile, the government has voted to implement the decision of the High Court to evict people living on prison land in Kitale. This even as Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Ohome has strongly warned the officers from Land Ministry who allegedly collaborate with the citizens in forging land ownership and documents in the country. Isaac Famba with more.
Things are looking quite gloomy for a group of people living on the land belonging to the prison department in Kitale. This is after the government began to increase its efforts to repossess all the land that was seized by locals and private investors. Speaking today when she made an inspection on the piece of land of more than 2,700 acres, Land CS Alice Wahome has said the government will continue with its plan to evict all people living on the same land.
The High Court has pronounced itself and declared any other person other than prisons illegal occupant of that land. So we'll be implementing or executing the judgment in the way the court say is executing that judgment.
In addition, the ministry has given a strong warning to officials suspected in collaborating with citizens in forging land ownership documents in the ministry.
We are closely monitoring, and all heads of departments and heads of our registries are on notice, they are on caution that they must exercise extreme due diligence before issuing any title. A mistake can occur which you can explain. The law allows us to rectify when it's a mistake. But when you want to be involved in a process to pass over title that shouldn't be issued, deliberately so, our officers will not be safe.
However, the government has been requested to be more human on its execution and to allow for care for low-income people who live in the area.
Kuna wale wamenunua hii shamba mara ya 5, ya 6, ya 7. So I think the government is also going to listen to that. So that we ensure that watu wasiumie. And I thank the president because he sent here the minister na wale ma-PSS for them to come and see exactly what is happening here.
Isaac Famba, TV47, Trans Nzoia County.
And it is a sign of relief for the community health promoters as the government is set to start disbursement of their stipends early next week. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has assured the community health promoters, CHPs, that the government has already released their money. Gachagua was speaking during the commissioning of the Mother and Child Unit at the Nyahururu County Referral Hospital in Laikipia County, where his sentiments on the stipend were confirmed by the Cabinet Secretary of Health, Susan Akumicha, who said that the ministry already has the money and disbursement will start within a few days.
Na serikali ya Governor Irungu. Serikali kuu imewapatia hii kits na kila kitu. Tumesikizana, Governor watawalipa 2,500 kila mwezi na sisi 2,500. Yetu Governor pande yetu iko tayari. Next week mtapata pesa yenu kutoka pande yetu. Na wewe Governor, na wewe utayarishe yako uwapatie. Washikanishe, wasukume mambo yao. Sisi kwa sababu tumefanya haya, nawe utusaidie, na ukiagiza kwa sababu Cabinet Secretary yuko hapa, tusaidiane now that we want to give a facelift ya hii hospitali. Tumalize kwa sababu sasa tukiwa na maternity ward mzuri, tuko na men's ward. Men's ward wazee tunamtengenezea men's ward ingine kwa sababu ile sasa ile iko pale ni kidogo. Lakini tunaomba Deputy President kwa sababu amekuja hapa kwetu na ameona ile kazi tunafanya, atusaidie tujenge a ultra modern outpatient block mzuri sana. Si ndio hiyo tukitaka watu wetu wa Laikipia ikuwe mzuri, na ndio tuweze kupatia hii hospitali yetu the best environment ile inafaa.
Naibu wa Rais, ile tulipromise hawa watu, tulisema tutawalipa stipends. Na wamekuwa wakingoja sana, si ndio? Na wewe ulinisaidia wiki 3 zimepita ukafungua hii mfumo ya kuwalipa. Nataka kuconfirm Naibu wa Rais kwamba pesa ya CHPs wa Laikipia County mimi niko nayo. Kuna mahali unajua waya ya stima lazima ushikanishe ndio moto iwake, ama namna gani? So leo vile nimekuwa hapa asubuhi, ile waya ilikuwa imekatika ya kushikanisha payment, pamoja na waziri wenyu wa afya tumeshikanisha, na wamesema in the next few days hao wanaenda kupata pesa yao.
And still on matters money, President William Ruto Monday signed the county government's additional grants bill at the State House in Nairobi. So this move makes 29 billion Kenya shillings available for the county government mandates. The president said that the national government will keep mobilizing its resources to support the county government. The president also highlighted the plans to stop importing cooking oil to Kenya within the next 5 years, which costs 1 billion annually. Ruto revealed that the government provided Kenyan farmers with sunflower seeds last year, and the aim was to reduce the rate of oil imports by 50% in 3 years, and finally stopping it completely within 5 years.
Now we have resources that will support our counties. Close to 29 billion shillings will be made available by this piece of legislation that has now become law. It will support our counties to discharge their mandate, which is very clear in our constitution. And because the counties are carrying out mandate assigned to them by the constitution, and it is our responsibility to mobilize resources and support the counties, I must say that we continuously are working towards making sure that whenever we have resources, it is shared between the 2 levels of government equitably so that every level of government can discharge their responsibilities. We provided seeds for sunflower because edible oil is one of the big tickets that is consuming our foreign exchange. And it is our plan to reduce the purchase of edible oil, where we spend close to $1 billion every year. We want to reduce that to 50% in the next 3 years, and in 5 years to eliminate completely the importation of edible oil into Kenya.
And to the corridors of justice, the Kenya Revenue Authority received a setback as the High Court ruled that the recruitment of 1,406 revenue service assistants was unconstitutional. In September 2023, KRA deployed this assistance to aid in providing services to Kenyans. Justice William Musyoka of the Bungoma High Court on Monday delivered this ruling, stating that a significant portion of the advertised portions were disproportionately allocated to two communities, thus breaching constitutional principles of inclusivity and regional balance. Justice Musyoka also barred the authority from recruiting and appointing any staff until the authority puts in place an ethnic diversity and regional balance policy. Now, in an effort to fight organized crime and bolster border security, the government has launched the Kenya Coordinated Border Management Program, which focuses on emerging technologies targeted at fostering both national and international cooperation. Kenya's unique location in East Africa. According to Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo, this has always highlighted the significance of efficient border management in boosting trade, maintaining national security and fostering regional integration. He said Kenya is working to create standard operating procedures that will guarantee efficiency and uniformity in border operations at all ports of entry.
Now, the curriculum and the program that we have launched is basically part of why it has been upgraded or updated, is to respond to the realities of the challenges on border management and control that continues to change from time to time in terms of complexity, but also to encourage working together across the various agencies within government internally, but also regionally, because we have border points with our neighbors in Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, Somalia. So it takes care of all those, so that as we make it possible for people to move in and out, for trade to flourish, we are also alive to the challenges on security, so that then we continue to keep the country safe.
This is the whole of government approach that we want to see continue to be applied across, because this is clearly a good benchmark. We also wish to underscore that the Kenya School of Government is committed to continue development of bespoke programs in the security sector to address the emerging complex security threats in the Kenya and the region.
And to another KRA setback, the Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner General is facing contempt of court charges from the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, for allegedly illegally deducting housing levy. LSK now says its decision follows a recommendation from Attorney General Justin Muturi, who stated that there is no legal basis for KRA to continue collecting housing levies from Kenyans on salary. As Mike Kagongo reports, outgoing LSK President Eric Theory says the letter by KRA seeking advisory from the AG was unnecessary and mischievous.
In response to court orders demanding a halt to housing levy deductions, the lawyers' umbrella LSK has now threatened to take legal action against KRA Commissioner General Humphrey Watanga and all KRA accounting staff. LSK President-elect Faith Odhiambo Monday afternoon said the taxman and other state authorities lacked a legal justification to deduct the funds from the employers, calling on Kenyans who may have fallen victims to volunteer the information to the LSK.
It has come to our attention that the Kenya Revenue Authority and other government agencies have, despite the declaration of Section 84 as being unconstitutional, have continued to deduct and remit to the Kenya Revenue Authority the housing levy.
LSK requested that all workers who have had salary deductions provide their pay stubs in an effort to streamline the application process for a refund of the deductions.
There is no legal basis to deduct the housing levy, and this action amounts to contempt of court and arbitrary imposition of tax.
Outgoing LSK President Eric Veuri said the society's announcement follows a recommendation from Attorney General Justin Muturi, who claimed there was no legal basis for KRA to continue collecting housing levy from Kenyans on salary.
Irrespective of the advice that the Attorney General has given, it is every person has a right to comply with court decisions.
Muturi was replying to a letter that Watanga had sent on February 12, asking for clarification on the government's stance on the issue. According to Theory, the letter by KRA seeking advisory was unnecessary and mischievous.
That is something that is known to every other Kenyan, and we want to say that that advisory, the seeking of that advisory was in itself a misadventure and mischief on the part of KRA.
LSK stated a breakdown in law and order will result from violation of court orders if left unchecked, serving as a reminder to the government of its duty to uphold and protect the rule of law. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Right, so the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Pharmacists and Dentists Union issued a 7-day strike notice on Monday. The medics, through KMPDU's Deputy Secretary General Dennis Miskela, stated that following the lapse of the 7-day notice, the doctors will down the tools beginning Sunday, so that's the 9th of March, if the government fails to address issues pertaining to the promotion of doctors. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
7 days from now, you and I may not be able to get health services if the doctors decide to go on strike as they threaten to do.
We will not sit back and watch the healthcare of this nation go down due to incompetencies of a few people. We are going to give a strike notice starting today, a 7-day strike notice that will culminate in a shutdown from Sunday midnight.
In a notice, the medics insisted that they would not return to work until the government honored 6 of their demands.
You know that KMPDO from Monday next week wanaenda strike. Na sisi wengine, kama within 14 days the CBS will not have been concluded, we shall also be joining in. We are going to paralyze the health sector in this country.
In Nairobi, KMPDU National Deputy Secretary General Dennis Miskela says the ball is now in the government's court. Among their demands include promotion, medical cover, internship postings, postgraduate fee payment, study leaves and pension, terms which KMPDU deemed irreducible minimums. In Kisii County, KMPDU Nyanza Branch Chairman Dr. Onyango Odonga noted that Kisii County had failed to implement the collective bargain agreement that had outlined
a CBA between us and the county governments. Kwa hivyo mgomo huu utaisha tu wakati serikali ya Kisii itasema wacha sasa tuwapromote, wacha tuwapeleke shule muhitimu ndo muhudumie wagonjwa vizuri, wacha tuwalipe on time.
At the same time, the Law Society of Kenya joined a section of Kenyans in condemning alleged police brutality on the health workers who are protesting against the state last week, specifically an incident that left National Secretary General Davji Atela injured after being allegedly hit by a tear gas canister.
We demand that the Inspector General of Police and IPOA take immediate steps to hold the rogue individuals who committed this heinous attack personally liable.
All eyes now turn to the Ministry of Health for its response to the mass action by the doctors. Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
Right, more context on that coming your way after this particular short break. Matters Set of the Nation, and right here on set do have Njuri Maina Woman Representative Kirunyaga, as well as Joe Mutambo, former Member of Parliament, Mwingi Central with Fred Ndebole. Stick around after this short break.
Time for us to take a look at the state of the nation, state of our politics. And today we're privileged to have in studio Njeri Maina, woman representative, Kirinyaga County. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Alongside Njeri Maina, we have Joe Mutambu, former MP Mwingi Central. It's good to have you in studio. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Of course, there's some interesting politics and realignments going around, especially in Mount Kenya region and across the country as well. But we'll come to that later. But interestingly, today, a lot of the headlines are featuring matters to do with KRA. On the Daily Nation, KRA tax shocker for farmers and businesses. And on the Standard, court blow for Ruto Gachagua over tribalism, and it has to do with the appointment of 1,402 revenue assistants for KRA. Probably we start with that, because this issue of shareholding has really been a problem. And they say that the court declared the hiring unconstitutional. The court was not asked to block or to nullify their hiring, but I think whoever went to court was just seeking to know if at all it was constitutional the way they were employed. And they say that this employment was skewed in favor of Kikuyu and Kalenjin communities. They enjoyed 56% of those jobs instead of something like 30%, according to this story that we're reading on the Standard. And probably we start from there, because the debate on shareholding and who exactly is a shareholder in this government or in this administration has been rife for a while. And it's been back and forth. There's been denials by senior leaders in government that is not the case, but it's now coming out that yes, there's some favorable treatment to some communities in Njeri Maina. How did this happen?
I've never had an issue with shareholding. And I believe that the remarks of the Deputy President were made in regard to political appointments. But what troubles me is that when it trickles down now to employment opportunities for Kenyans, because I believe every Kenyan should have an equal opportunity for competitive employment by the government. And in regard to shareholding, it should only be confined to political appointments, because at the end of the day, even in the most developed nations, people are appointed in regard to the agenda of the day, the government of the day. But when it comes to development, employment opportunities, this should never have happened. It is quite unfortunate. And we see that it is alleged that majority of the people from the constituencies where the KRA boss comes from got the lion's share. So it's quite unfortunate, because there are quite a number of people even from Kirinyaga County who missed on the opportunity to be employed by KRA. Because
they say that Thika Town got 50 slots, Kiharu constituency got 40 slots. Meanwhile, Funyula, Matayos, and quite a number of other constituencies in Kisumu West, Kibwezi West, Kibwezi East, Kilome constituencies got 1 slot each. This is in defiance of Article 27 of the Constitution, which guarantees Kenyans not to be discriminated against based on their ethnic background. Bwana Mutambu, how can this be okay?
I'm a little bit disturbed with the comments of shares. You know, when it comes to shares of the nation, any tax paying Kenyan is a shareholder. If the company is this country called Kenya, if Kenya is the company, then anybody paying tax, they are also members of Kenya, and they are shareholders. You don't become a shareholder because you voted for a particular party, right? Because the moment a government is elected, it's a government of the people, for the people. It is not a government for a particular party which brought it in. President William Samoei Ruto today is not a president of UDA. He's a president of a republic called Kenya. And anybody who resides in Kenya, he has one man called president as their president. So when you come down now and say, in this country, anybody who will get a job is the person who voted for UDA, then you are killing the nation. You are killing democracy. You are going against the constitution, because the constitution calls for regional balance. That name regional, it means Kenya has got several regions, and all those regions must be considered not only to the appointments, but also to the any opportunity available for a Kenyan to apply for a job. And you will not be subjected to your tribe, your color, where you come from, your religion. That is totally unconstitutional, because any Kenyan, despite where they come from, despite who they voted for, they have a right to have a job in this country. Okay. And that is where we go wrong. Because once we look at the people from their tribes and who they voted for to give them a job, what does that leave the young Kenyan who is going to school today to become somebody in this country? Must they align themselves to a particular party so that they get a job? No. That political issue. And I heard my sister say that political appointments must only go to the people who are the shareholding of a particular company or party. That is also extremely wrong, because any government position must be served by a person who qualifies for that position, irrespective of their political affiliation.
Now, the process of remedying this definitely would involve Parliament, because if we're talking about young Kenyans missing out on jobs, this is glaring, and it's a court that has come to talk about it. The court, as it said, the judge said that he had not been invited to nullify, so he did not go there. But do you think that this should be left to stay as it is, or should a remedy be found for these appointments at KRA?
I believe there was a discussion in the committee that is supposed to be handling this, and we are expecting that a report is going to be tabled on the floor of Parliament in regard to what they have recommended and what is the way forward in regard to this. So perhaps just not to preempt the committee, because I know that they will be giving us the feedback. Let us wait and see what will be tabled, because in Parliament we have various departmental committees. So every committee is tasked with various aspects. And the Labour Committee, I know, is well seized of this matter. Let us wait and see. Okay. But this should be dealt with, because there's already policy that, the constitution is clear, the policy is there. So it shouldn't even have happened in the first place. Yet we've seen and heard senior leaders actually come to deny and clarify, including the president himself, saying this talk of shareholding is not probably a genuine discussion within government circles. But in reality, Kenyans are seeing this, and if at all the courts can pick this, it means that definitely someone is not telling us the truth.
What I know is that the whole thing of shareholding has left bitter taste in many Kenyans' mouth. That is a fact, right? That comment and that statement did not come from my sister here, who is just a senator or a member of parliament representing our people. It came from number two. It was not Mutambu, whereby people will say, Mutambu is just making noise. This is somebody who is in the presidency, right? And once he makes that comment, many Kenyans heard him. And many Kenyans are asking themselves a lot of questions. I have a problem when I hear that there's a committee somewhere in the Senate or in the Parliament looking into this. The only thing Parliament can do is to recommend. And I can assure you, Idimoli, I've been in Parliament myself. And I know how many recommendations Parliament has made, and none of them has been fulfilled. My take on this issue is that we have a Public Service Commission. They have seen a red flag somewhere raised by a constitutional office in this country who interprets the law of the nation. And they are telling them there was an unconstitutional happening somewhere, where people were hired and the constitution was not followed. I will not wait for the Senate to sit down if I was the chairman of
Are you saying that the Houses of Parliament cannot come up with a remedy for this situation?
No, they can only recommend. That's what
their hands are tied.
Their hands are tied. Parliament cannot wake up and to go tell PSC, well, do this tomorrow, otherwise this will happen. No, they will only recommend. It's just a recommendation, and it can be taken or not taken. And that's why I'm going back and saying, go to the records, how many recommendations from departmental committees of Parliament, either Senate or the other house, and how many have been actualized. Let's start taking audit of what you are telling Kenyans. It is not possible. So the only possible way any decent Kenyan sitting in a position of power or of authority to say there's a red flag raised by court, and what we need to do is to go by that and make remedy or make good of our wrongs. That's what needs to be done. So somebody somewhere must take responsibility.
But Jeremiah, do you agree? Do you accept that Parliament is actually powerless? There's nothing you can do in some instances. Is that the real situation?
To some extent, I do not agree with my senior here, because I can point quite a number of situations that Parliament has handled. And perhaps when he was in Parliament, they were not summoning CSs. Right now, Parliament has the power to summon CSs and ensure that they exhaustively deal with matters. So this Parliament, the 13th Parliament, is abled a bit differently from perhaps the previous Parliament. And if I remind you, I sit in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. We're the ones who instituted the removal of the KRA 4. So Parliament does have powers. And Parliament is the one that allocates the budget for all institutions of government. So at the end of the day, Parliament just needs to put their foot down on how things must be done. If we have a consensus on how things must be done going forward, then we can do something. What happens in Parliament is oftentimes, there are different quarters and lobbying and all this. So the politics of it.
And the influence of the ruling party?
The politics of it. I mean, the politics of it defeats the best interest at the end of the day.
Okay.
So, of course, we have powers to some extent, but how those powers are exercised and the influence on those powers of Parliament is what perhaps defeats the purpose of Parliament, ensuring that they do really make a change.
Okay. Interesting, because even this kind of happening is not just tied to probably KRA and other national institutions. Even county governments have been accused of irregular or unbalanced or biased employment. And I draw your attention to the cartoon, I think on the Standard, yes, page 14 of the Standard, because the Senate or senators have made a proposal, the same way you've mentioned that CSs appear before Parliament in plenary to answer questions. They would want governors to appear before plenary. It's on page 14 of the Standard. For governors to start coming before plenary to explain some of their actions. And I'm wondering, Bwana Mutambu, do you think that's the best way to go? Given the fact that some of these senators are already eyeing the governor positions, is this the best way to approach? Because governors have already been appearing and honoring summons by committees of the Senate. Should they now be made to appear before plenary?
The issue of governors, CSs, or any other senior government officers appearing before the committee is not something which started yesterday. When I was in Parliament, I'm a beneficiary of 2010 Constitution, and I was in Parliament in 2013. So what I know is that even in 2013, ministers, PSs were made to come to Parliament.
But before
those powers did not come yesterday. The powers of Parliament to summon the CSs did not come during my sister's term. It was there since 2010. It started 2010. That is what Constitution envisaged. And in 2013, I was in Parliament, and we were summoning ministers. What I want to
before the plenary or before committees?
Before committees.
Yes.
Before committees. And by the way, it's basically all the same. appearing before plenary and appearing before committee is more or less the same, because it's members of parliament, okay, are allowed to be guests to a committee.
Okay.
All right? So if there is an issue which a member of parliament feels in need to have addressed by this particular CES, they can go to that committee and be a friend of that committee and ask all the questions. So there's no difference. I don't see a big difference whether it is in a departmental committee or is on the it doesn't make any difference. So that is not an issue at all. The issue is, yes, parliament has got power. Having power is one thing, and having to implement it and to enforce it is also another. That's what we need to look at.
Shortly, we'll be going to Nakuru for a report. Your comment on this issue, that proposal to start summoning governors to appear directly before the committee of the whole house. What do you think about that?
There's an issue of conflict, because you find that some of the senators have served as governors, and some of the current senators are eyeing to be governors. So there's a bit of an issue with conflict of interest, because you find that like in Uasin Gishu, the former governor is now the senator. So an issue that arises that needs to be discussed, and I know that there is a pending bill to ensure that former governors have at least a 10-year lapse of time before they come to Senate. But it is quite interesting.
Anyway, they still encounter them at the committee level, so we will see. It is a proposal by the Senate when it comes to trying to ensure that senior government officials, whether at the county level or at the national level, are doing what they need to. Let's now go straight to Nakuru and get our reporter Chichi Josephine, who will be updating us on that bill that was passed yesterday, signed into law yesterday and assented into law by the president on additional allocation to counties. Good morning, Chichi. Kindly bring us up to speed with our discussion.
Fred, a very good morning to you. And here's a section of Kenya's 47 counties, or rather devolved units, are set to receive an addition or an extra 46 billion shillings. This is after President William Ruto yesterday assented to the county government's additional allocation bill, that the funds, or rather funds that are meant to ensure that counties best deliver to the Mwananchi and also to cater for the 2023-2024 financial year. But also remember that the law was forwarded to President William Ruto after the National Assembly and the Senate reached a consensus, paving way for an increase of allocation of funds to county governments. But the question remains, have the counties delivered to Mwananchi, even with the little that they've been having, for them to be entrusted with the more that they will be getting? I'll be here to talk to locals in this particular county to tell me what they think about the allocation of more funds to the county governments, and if they have any trust in their county government that they will be able to deliver to them. Allow me begin with you, Mwalimu. Karibu sana. Tueleze, hapo jana tulimuona Rais William Ruto akitia saini ya kwamba counties ziweze kuongezewa fedha. What do you feel about this? Have the counties so far, with the little they have, delivered for them to be entrusted with the little that they will be added?
I'm Simon Kalanja Muigai, also known as Chama Dig Dig, and I can see what the president did yesterday. And I can say, let me say that one is a recommendable job, something good that he said, that he's going to add additional for 6.3 billion to the county governments, so that these county governments are going to deliver. But we have also found that these county governments, in the deliverance of their duties, has become very poor. Let me say this. Because, for example, in Nakuru County, we have one big hospital, the level 5. We find there are so many things which are happening there. For example, there is lack of attendance to the patients. This one we have noted very, very carefully. And also, in other areas of where we expect the county government to deliver, like the PP1 and PP2, also they have given funds, but all the same, the parents still are paying for these PP1s. The parents still are paying a lot of money. You find in PP1, when the child is joining PP1, a parent is told 5,000 shillings. And whereas the county government is at the same time paying for this money. So you don't understand why there's this kind of corruption going on. And that's why we say the county government is not delivering the way it's supposed to deliver. However, I also find that the money that was given by the president had guidelines. They are to buy for subsidized fertilizers for the farmers. Also, beside that, there was to be construction of development industries. We also find that the same money was given to 5 counties to construct the county headquarters. Nevertheless, I also find that there is also possible hide and seek game in this matter. Why? Because last time we had the deputy president, telling the county government we have given money, telling the 190 we have given money to the county government, and the county governor said no, we have not received this money. This was last year. So you can also find that the government, the central government, may be possibly playing hide and seek game here, because in the first place it wants to relieve itself from the subsidized fertilizers, because subsidized fertilizers proved to be abound in the fresh last year. It was a bother to the central government. So the central government most possibly wants that to give the burden, to transfer the burden to the county government.
So you feel the 46 billion addition will not make any difference?
Seriously, it might not make any difference. And again, I also find that the county government, the central government, may be possibly trying to blindfold the governors.
Why?
In the sense that the governors are demanding for unpaid billions of shillings, which have not been remitted from the central government. And therefore, additional money will make them now forget what they are to demand and now focus on what they are going to get as additional money. But when we look at this kind of funds that have been given by the central government, you also discover that this fund is too minimal also.
46 billion.
46 are too minimal, because dividing among the 47 counties, how many they are going to get is less than $1 billion. It's less than $1 billion.
And probably I would also want to ask you in regards to the looming strike, doctor strike. What do you think in regards to the same? Do you think the government, or rather what the doctors are doing, is right?
Well, the doctors are very right. They are right to demand for their rights. Because in Kenya, it's a tradition in this government that unless you go on strike, they cannot get convinced. They only keep on promising.
So you support
them? Every time the economy of this nation will never improve. There is talk of economy, wait for the economy to improve. But there are so many routers. They are all over, from the central level of the government to the county level. In fact, what I find, that these people default to corruption. They default to corruption. Because wherever you go, corruption is there, and corruption is taking place.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Allow me to talk to another. What do you think in regards to allocation of more funds to the county?
First of all, my name, I'm Raymond Ndalo, a civic educator in Nakuru County, and also a member of the RPP, a former member of the RPP, released political prisoner, Nakuru. And I'm also a member of the Bunge la Manyata, Nakuru. I've got these things to say out. One is that the money given to the county is very little, it is very minimal. It is because of this. But the 6 billion is very minimal for the counties, for the 7 counties. Why? One thing is that these counties, they've got 3 months arrears. All 47 counties have got 3 months arrears of salaries. They have not paid it. There is no development project which is going on. For example, here in Nakuru, there is no development project which is going on. Recently, our governor talked about culverts and gabions being built. We are not seeing them. So that one is very, very minimal for the counties. So I would request the president at least to increase so that we can see.
What amount exactly?
The government is 450 billion. And unless the time we give them 450 billion, they will use it. And also the governor should use it into proper purpose, not corruption. Because the corruption in Kenya has become a superstructure in our system, whereby everybody will just involve in corruption, and then the ethnic community will protect whoever does that.
And what do you think in regards to doctor strike so far, sir?
In our constitution, there is the freedom of procession, and that freedom of procession is enshrined in our constitution, and everybody should encourage that. We fought for the constitution in 2002, and it came on 2010, and the way it is, it should be that way. And I request the Inspector General not to interfere with the procession of doctors or anybody which is doing procession, like the one we saw in Nakuru during the lawyers' procession, being disturbed. Some people hiring individuals to throw stones to the lawyers, which was quite wrong. Yes.
Now, tell me, the Auditor General said some counties have a lot of, probably have money, but they've been misusing these funds. What would you say in regards to Nakuru County? Have the governor performed so far so good with the little that she's been?
Our governor is not performing very well, and that I've been saying in so many media houses. Our governor is not performing very well. Last time it was 0.04%. It is very minimal, and all the projects which were being done by the Kilenjui are stalled. The Afra is stalled, and all hospitals are stalled. So is performing very minimal, and I will request our Excellency the Governor to pull up her socks, or else he will not see the second term.
Thank you so much. Shadi, wewe unafikiria vipi kuhusiana na kuongezwa kwa more funds to the county government?
Kwangu mimi kama mwananchi wa Nakuru, hivi sasa nimesimama Nakuru Town West, ningependa kusema kwamba kuongezwa kwa fund kwa county, we are doing the right thing, but at the wrong timing. You see, adding 46.3 billion, it's not enough for the county. Okay, in a common mwananchi, we'll see 46.3 billion, it's a lot of money. But when you start dividing this money, it's very little. So for me, even if you give the county this money, they will still wataiba. Kwa sababu hata ile kidogo ambao wamepewa, wamefanyia nini?
There has been misuse of funds in the...
They have been misusing of funds. Hata mimi ningemrai tu mheshimiwa president wetu Ruto kwamba hata hii pesa angewachilia. Kwa sababu gani? Each and every county of this country ni corruption. Hakuna kitu kingine ambayo wanafanya. Kama kuja Nakuru, if you compare Susan Kehika and Lee Kinyanjui, Lee has been here for the past 5 years, and you can see what Lee has done. If you go to cancer center, Lee has installed cancer center. If you go to stadium, Lee started the structure, stadium. If you go to market, go down there to Kisulisuli, Lee has installed a market. If you go to roads, Lee has built roads here in Nakuru. If you compare 1 year which Susan has been in the office, I can rate him 0.00%. He has done. He's not performing, and he needed to pull up his socks. Maybe he is good, but the people that are surrounding him, they are bad. They are corrupt. So I need to tell the governor that to pull up his socks and monitor his people, because it is his people who are destroying him. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Therefore, Freddie, those are locals in this particular county, of course, explaining more on what they feel with the allocation of more funds to the county government. And remember, President William Ruto yesterday assented to the county government's additional allocation funds. But also remember that some time back we saw the Auditor General say that some counties have a lot of money, or rather have money, but they've been misusing these funds. And this could be in agreement with what these people said. So we expect that once the county governments get these very funds, they'll be able to deliver services to the local wananchi. That is all we have from Nakuru County. Allow me hand over to Freddie. My name is Chichi Josephine.
Thank you so much, Chichi Josephine, all the way in Nakuru, sampling the views of citizens and residents there with regard to the county allocation act that was signed into law yesterday, giving some counties an extra 46 billion shillings. And that debate will continue. But I'm still in studio with Njeri Maina, woman representative, Kirinyaga County, and Joe Mutambu, former MP, Mwingi Central. And I now want us to focus, still matters tax collection. And KRA, according to the Daily Nation, they say KRA tax shocker for farmers and businesses. The Kenya Revenue Authority has rescinded its decision to exempt farmers as well as small businesses with an annual turnover of less than 5 million shillings from the requirement to produce electronic invoices for their sales. as the government moves to seal leakages and boost collections from hard-to-tax areas. Now, the taxman is launching new SMS-based eTIM system, but the move, they say, is likely to spark outrage. It's already causing ripples, especially in regions of Mount Kenya. And definitely it has its political implications, but do you feel that probably this is a bit misinformed, targeting farmers, because the intention, and the government has been very clear, the eventual intention is to levy a 5% withholding tax on farm produce, and this would be the gateway to do it. Once you sign into teams, then they have your records, and that's how they do it. Njeri.
We've discussed issues of the tax burden to a section of Kenyans, and less than 15% of Kenyans are tax compliant. So you find that the revenue that is generated, the burden of that revenue falls on very few Kenyans. So of course, when the Kenya Kwanza government came in place, we thought about expanding the tax base just to lessen the taxpayer burden and just balance it a bit. Of course, the ideal situation would be that farmers maybe who are doing small-scale farming of avocado, macadamia, and others were to be exempt from such a burden. And what you find is that coffee farmers already pay tax because they sell their produce through cooperatives. Tea farmers pay tax because they sell the produce through cooperatives. But quite a section of farmers are exempt from the same merely because they do not sell their produce through cooperatives. And what we have advised farmers is to form cooperative societies so that if they're selling any produce, it also cuts the broker. Mm-hmm. And they earn more than they would earn selling through brokers. So at the end of the day, if they were to sell through cooperatives, it would be raised directly to the exporter who is buying the produce. And of course, it would fetch a higher price. But like you have said, this has caused quite a disquiet, especially in Central Region. I think I saw the Deputy President in Murang'a. You know, they do quite a bit of avocado farming. And the Section 52 of the Act that Parliament passed, the wording was may. And may, in legal terms or drafting terms, means that it is an option. And the Commissioner has the authority to exempt any person that they gazette from paying such tax. So of course KRA decided that they will do it, but like the Deputy President said, this is a discussion we can have because it is made. It is not a must for such farmers to pay withholding tax. Majority of these farmers also are not well versed with technology. So of course that is another challenge for them that we must look at and an aspect that must be discussed. But like I say, it is not cast in stone because the wording is may. And the Commissioner has the right and authority to gazette that certain farmers will be exempt from such requirements. Okay,
and the initial idea was that anyone with a turnover of less than 5 million shillings was going to be exempted. But when the taxman rescinds that decision and seeks to target those people, do you think that probably the taxman is overdoing it a bit, targeting a farmer who probably makes 300,000 randomly in a year?
You know, this tax business, since Kenya Kwanza took over, the issues coming out surrounding or ring-fenced around the tax has put this government into a very bad relationship with the people who elected it. This is number one. From all the things which are being taxed and where the taxes are being increased, an hour after an hour, day after an hour, day, week after week, month after month, right? Every moment there is a discussion of taxes going up on different sectors, in different issues, right? that today we are paying this, tomorrow you are being told you will pay that. Agriculture, where farming sector is the backbone of this country's economy, contributing not less than 33% to the GDP. All right? Plus another 20-something indirectly. So this is a sector which need to be babysitted in any manner. And that farmer who is either farming to sell their produce to either earn a living need to be, guided from all sorts of any shortcomings. The moment you tax this farmer, right, you are killing his ability, his morale, his capacity to continue producing.
What happens to the promise to widen the tax base? Because many people have been arguing that, yes, you're taxing, but you're taxing very few people. You would need to include more people in this tax bracket. That could be the justification.
I am not sure whether we're going to build this country by overtaxing Kenyans. No. Because what that means, if you continue overtaxing people or producers, what will they do? They'll close down the shops. So what will happen to you? You know, you better charge less and get many people paying you as opposed to charging more and have a few people paying you.
You need to clarify something.
I just really want to clarify something. The government has no other way to raise revenue. It's either through borrowing, multilateral, bilateral, or tax that is paid by the population. And I mean, we cannot argue, it is not logical to say that we are overburdening a section of Kenyans, and then once we try to even the odds, there's a complaint that now we are taxing more Kenyans. And at the end of the day, the burden will be lessened if other people join on board to generate revenue for the government. And we forget that the population of this nation is growing rapidly. It is not like it was in the 1960s, 65, 70s.
Colleagues in Parliament probably leading from the front, criticizing some of these measures by the government. The fact that it is, for example, the economy of central Kenya, which is overwhelmingly agricultural, that we're even seeing MPs leading, for example, last week, we saw a place where in Boranga where a number of KRA officials were there trying to educate farmers on the need to actually use the e-TIMs, and MPs joined in chasing them away. So the question is it failure by the members of parliament to flag some of these issues that could cause problems, or are you saying it's a mischief on the part of KRA?
Of course, it is not failure by parliament because we did make the law as it is. But like I've said, the wording was made. But then KRA took an opportunity, or rather saw an opportunity in that. You left a loophole and they used it. And they exploited that to ensure that they have now brought these other farmers on board. But the commissioner has the authority to gazette that certain farmers are exempt from this tax requirement. But that at the end of the day, the logical discussion that I am angling at is that we also need to onboard so that we can lessen the burden of tax. So what I was correcting my colleague on is that it is not logical to say that a section of Kenyans are overburdened, but then now claim that we're trying to add more on board. Because we do need infrastructure. We do need a healthcare system that's working. We do need to fund our education. And, you know, of course, I've heard the argument that since independence, now issues are just going down the drain. But we did not have such a population in the 1970s or 80s.
Do you, for example, support that action by MPs in central Kenya in chasing away the KRA officials who are talking to farmers about the e-TIMs? What is your thought about that?
You know, every politician has a way of doing things. In my perspective, perhaps my approach would be to have a discussion with KRA and convince them to gazette that this section of farmers should not be paying or should not be liable to pay these kind of tax.
So you do not agree that they should be included in the tax bracket?
I do not agree that they should be included in the tax bracket.
The action by MPs is questionable because on one hand they're supposed to scrutinize the Finance Act, the Finance Bill thoroughly and seal all loopholes that would end up leaving their constituents vulnerable. They left a loophole, and Mheshimiwa admits they left a loophole, and KRA is exploiting it.
You know why I'm laughing? Because this government, majority of members of parliament come from Mount Kenya. They voted to the last man, to this government. This was a government bill, or a government, what do you call it? Law, whatever they brought to parliament, all right? It was an initiative of the government. And who are the supporters of government in parliament? It's the members of parliament, all right? Now, you pass a law in parliament for officers to implement, right? And when they go to implement, you go to the ground to chase them. What are you telling Kenyans? Surely, my colleagues, you were there in parliament when this act was being passed, right? And no institution in this country will act without basis of the law. So KRA saw that there's an opportunity here to collect more money because the members of parliament has passed this law, all right? So once that's been passed, now they realize, that law is now touching on my voter, right? What they could have done is to think before passing that bill. So I don't support the act. Other people can do that. Let the MCAs or let other community organization groups do that. But not a member of parliament, the person who passed that law.
Are we saying that probably bills that come from the government are not receiving the proper scrutiny they should? Because some of these things, it's up to the legislators to actually look ahead and see here, if we leave this loophole, something could happen.
There are several amendments that were proposed during the passing of the bill. And
but none of them passed?
Yes. And of course, in parliament, and my colleague was there, so he is well versed on how parliament operates, that if I bring an amendment and unfortunately it does not pass, then the act is passed as it is. There's a stage of the whole committee of the whole house where several amendments are brought, and if they're not voted for, they're not included in the law. And at the end of the day, what I can say is that it is a personal or individual scrutiny that is required. And I do see the rationale of expanding the tax base, but I do not support that such farmers, small-scale farmers, should be included in the e-teams, because you find that they're not properly equipped. At this point, they have no cooperative societies that they have formed or joined to sell their produce. They do not have the technology know-how. So perhaps after equipping them, we can have that discussion. And like I have said, I do understand what is.
That quality should have been added during the process.
It should have been considered. It should have been considered.
As part of the process of legislation.
Yes, it should have been considered.
You are among the people in the House, so this process was part of your work. And now we are seeing a general collective disagreement about the same things you passed in Parliament, and we're questioning the role of Parliament in legislating, which is the main role. If at all, and because we're seeing a trend that each and every government bill is passing without amendment. So what quality is the House adding?
I can assure you that not every government bill is passing without amendment, and I can give you
the ones that
evidence
matter,
to that
affordable
effect.
Housing bill.
No, the affordable housing actually proposed an amendment through the chair, and evidence is there. It did pass. It did. We did amend section 43 of the Act because we wanted to, or rather, I proposed to ring fence the fund from abuse by board members. So that is evidence that I can actually adduce because, we have the Hansard on record that it did pass, and I proposed that amendment through the chair of the committee, who is the Molo MP, Kuria Kimani. So that is why I have said it is a personal duty to scrutinize the bills that come on the floor and see how they affect Kenyans in a general perspective, or the voters that you represent. And this particular bill that we passed, I insist again that the commissioner has the authority to gazette that certain farmers are exempt from this, and that should be the way forward as we have discussions on empowering that farmer to sell through cooperatives and to also ensure that they are properly equipped in terms of technology.
And if we look at it from the taxman's perspective, it is his job, simple, collect taxes. The more he can, the better. Can we really blame KRA for this? No. Or should we place the blame squarely on the houses of legislation?
One, I'm not blaming KRA on this because they're implementing what Parliament has passed, right? And me, I like saying it as it is, Idimoli. And I don't care who loves or hates me. The truth of the matter, the business of the Parliament, right? You can propose 1 million amendments. But if they are against the desires of those mighty powers, they will not see the light of the day. Take it to the bank, all right? She can make an amendment, and it will be looked at, scrutinized. What is she saying? She's saying this, that is not a problem. Allow that. What is Mutambo saying? Mutambo is saying that these farmers, they are not supposed to have the e-tax. You cannot wait because, one, there is no network, and this farmer is producing perishable goods, and they cannot wait for KRA to come and do this. I need to sell my produce, all right? Mutambo is saying that, yes, but when that produce is sold, we lose taxes. So delete that. This is how it works in Kenya. I want to tell Kenyans how it works. It is not about you are a member of parliament, what they want or what they think is right. There are other people who are thinking for them, and they have to do what other people want for them to survive. Okay. This is the problem we're having as a country. And if we don't discuss it, then this country will keep on suffering. Today, tomorrow Mutambo will be the president. I will collect my members and I tell them, I want things done this way. They are not given freedom to think for themselves. Okay. Members have brought sensible amendments in parliament. They are brought. I have been there. I have even myself brought. But they look at who is bringing and what is he saying. And if it is against what those powers want, I tell you here, it doesn't matter how many amendments you bring.
Do you take responsibility as a member of the National Assembly that whatever these farmers are going through right now should be squarely blamed on you as an MP, a representative?
First I was just laughing when my senior was speaking, because I wanted to wonder whether that was the same position he held when he was a member of parliament. I actually amended section 41. It was not 43. And every member of parliament owes a duty of care to their constituents or the people that they represent. And it would be unbecoming of me to fail to take responsibility. But I do insist, because I am an advocate. So I do know what the law means when it says may and what it means when it says shall or must. And it is not mandatory as passed in the Act to require that these farmers pay tax, which is what I'm saying. It is a discussion.
The items for you to engage in sale of any farm produce.
It is not mandatory either.
Yet KRA has given a deadline.
They have, but the commissioner has the authority to either say that it should be done or it should not be done. So these are discussions that we should pick up with KRA as members of parliament, and even the ones who are chasing away the KRA officers. It is just about talking in regard to these things, because at the end of the day, chasing them is not, we cannot say that it is 100% their fault. They saw an opportunity, they exploited that opportunity, but they have the authority to make a different decision in regard to that. And that is what we should be angling at.
Okay. Now, this could tie with the next discussion we want to have, which is political, because now the kind of problems we're seeing with this tax collection is hitting home especially in Mount Kenya region, where farmers are the majority. When you hear the deputy president going and saying, no, this one has to be relooked at, yet the taxman has already gone ahead and is putting into effect this will change a lot of things. Could this be the game changer for Mount Kenya politics, Bwana Mutambo? Could this trigger a shift in how politics is conducted in that region?
Edemoli, I don't know which country you live in when you ask whether this is a trigger. Mount Kenya has already been triggered by so many other things.
I'm asking if this tax is enough to trigger.
No, this is hardening now sold on a wound. This one is hardening sold to the wound. All right? And I wanted to clarify something and tell you where the problem is. You see, once you make a fake law, right, you leave powers to individuals to do whatever they want with Kenyans. That is where the problem is. Because once the commissioner has been given powers to decide for the whole nation, and this person, they don't make laws. Even courts, they have not been given that leeway that they can decide. All right? Laws are made to perfection. All right? An inch to an inch. What Parliament need to do is to re-audit itself and say, how are we making our laws? All right? Are we making our laws and leaving gaps for Kenyans or for anybody to interpret for themselves? It has to be explicit and clear, simple and clear, so that nobody comes tomorrow, like what my sister is struggling to say, may, which is optional. All right? That's what she's struggling. It is may, this one may, that one. We need to be certain sure what we are saying and what kind of law we are making, so that when somebody takes that law, the interpretation will be, you don't need a lawyer sometimes, right? But
the law should be clear.
It is clear. When it comes to taxing Kenyans, let the law be very clear. Don't leave gaps. So that today, now the chairman of KRA or the CEO of KRA, they goes out there, they say we are going to implement this, the policies and the regulations are saying this. Now you see the president or the deputy now saying, no, hii itaribia sisi siasa. Now he has to rush back to his homestead and start telling people, no, we need to look into this. Where were you when it was being done? Why were you? Because every senior government officer from either whatever department they are, when a law is being made and it touches on them, they look at it and they advise. They advise the executive. This law will affect us here, because there are those advisors. Where were they?
Okay.
You see, to me, I'm seeing it as an afterthought. After the bad law has been made, now the president or his deputy must run around and I don't know why he's running to the Mount Kenya alone, and yet we have Western, we have coast, even if they grow coconut, it's farming. I have not seen him there. Why is he only running into Mount Kenya? Okay. I want to see him in Ukambani where we grow mango. He's not telling us about this bill. He's only talking about Mount Kenya. So what I'm telling you, this is salt being added to sugar. All right?
Okay. And I think that brings us to
No. You know, he said something.
He
said something. The deputy president was in Mount Kenya. It doesn't mean that he ran to Mount Kenya to make those comments. He was actually, he was working. He was doing his duty as a deputy president in Mount Kenya region.
There are no duties in Ukambani?
No, but he has been to Ukambani, he has been to Nandi, he has been to Coast region.
Let me correct you.
He has been to Western.
He's been to Ukambani for a funeral.
Okay.
He has been to Ukambani for a prayer. He has never been to Ukambani, even the president himself, he has never been to Ukambani for a developmental issue. Okay. Tell me which day.
Let's now take a look at what's happening in Mount Kenya, because we are there. Even beyond the tax issues, something is happening in the mountain. Yes, and we are seeing that especially after that Ruto-Raila meeting in Uganda last week, seeing mamas. And I'm reading a very interesting excerpt from page 2 of the Standard, where even Jeremiah Kioni of the Jubilee Party under Uhuru Kenyatta, now says that his team has extended an olive branch to the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, and all the leaders elected in the ruling United Democratic Alliance ticket to the conference, a conference which will be held in Limuru. They're calling it Limuru 3 on April the 20th, because now they're coalescing and retreating to the Mount Kenya region leadership. For Kioni to extend an olive branch to the deputy president, he says, the Raila Ruto deal will sidestep Gachagua. When did that become of interest to Jeremiah Kioni? Is it true that leaders in Mount Kenya region are now retreating back to their regional cocoon?
You know, I would have to speak to Jeremiah Kioni to pick his mind. So I cannot really speak on his thoughts in regard to that. But what I can say is that every community has a right to consolidate their base. And we cannot hide from the fact that Kenyans vote along tribal lines. And it is something that the Kenya Kwanza government really tried to build a party with a national outlook. But if you look at even regions like the Lake region, a section of the Western, the coastal region, they ascribe to particular political leaders. So that's why you can see there's a stronghold for the ODM zone, or Azimio, and there's a stronghold for UDO Kenya Kwanza. And at the end of the day, it is also important to appreciate the facts as they are. The ideal situation, of course, would be that we build parties that precede or live beyond persons. You see, there's already a push and pull in ODM, where they're saying that if the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga proceeds to AU, that it's going to disintegrate, because we don't build institutions that last beyond persons. So it is right and okay and justified for Mount Kenya to meet as a region.
But is that informed out of
and have
fear
a conversation
or mistrust of what could be happening at the national level with that meeting between Raila and Ruto? Is this coalescing within Mount Kenya informed by a fear or lack of trust?
You know, the maxim in politics is that there are no permanent enemies. It is just a matter of interest. So what informs politics or politicians is interest. And it is the best interest of Mount Kenya region to have a solid base, so that they can also be able to negotiate and have a proper approach to any issues that pertain the region. So it is not an issue of mistrust, it is just an issue of ensuring that the interests of Mount Kenya region are well catered for.
Because I asked this question because Raila going to the AU, why should that make anyone in Mount Kenya uncomfortable? Why would they feel like there could be a realignment that could leave them at a disadvantage, Bwana Mutambo?
You know, Mount Kenya today, Mount Kenya, which is the largest voting bloc in our country, they're realizing their mistakes, number one. The Raila factor in Kenyan political arena is something which cannot be ignored by anybody. Maybe Mount Kenya, they are thinking on how to move forward and how to position themselves in next general election. When it comes to the question of Raila joining hands with Ruto in any situation, either to campaign for AU, it is not of the people he worked under those other times, right? And if what he opts for is taken away, he's left naked.
And what is this? So he would have been hoping for Raila's endorsement?
Where are we in this country? We know who calls shots. We know who has the masses. And politics is about numbers. And I would want that powerful person with that numbers to be on my side tomorrow. Now, if that person goes away, what does that mean? Now, Mount Kenya, they know they have Gachagua today as their deputy president. If Raila is convinced to join this other side, what will happen? He will also negotiate. He will not only negotiate for AU, he will also negotiate for other positions, which may affect Gachagua himself.
Okay.
So it's a concern. You need to open your eyes and see what is happening.
Okay.
And where does that leave Kenyans? It leaves Kenyans with no hope.
Okay.
Because the government will have no opposition. Let's call it as it is. The opposition figure in this country is one Raila Amolo Odinga.
And we'll continue this discussion on just what kind of effect Raila's rapprochement with the president has had on different regions in this country. That after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe. All right, welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Ndimuli, and I'm still in studio with MP Njeri Maina and former MP Joe Mutambu. And we continue now looking at the politics and the crumbling of political alliances with the expected move of Raila Odinga to that AU job, if he's successful. And yes, Mount Kenya is still very interesting, and I've seen even a warning by Laikipia East MP, Mwangi Kiunjuri, who's cautioning leaders from that region that this coalescing and this retreating back to the regional cocoon could end up seeing the region isolated by other communities. And he's also warning that the region's leaders pursuing unity should not lead to anxiety, tension, and panic to the community, because it may appear that the community is at loggerheads with the president. There's a risk there that when Mount Kenya leaders retreat back and now coalesce around the deputy president, and they start saying we don't want anyone disrespecting our deputy president and all these things, that could have a different effect on the national level. Do you agree with him that there's a risk with such kind of a move? As you said, even every community has a right to retreat and discuss the issues.
I do disagree with my senior and someone that I would call a political mentor. You know, sometimes we meet on the corridors of Parliament, and he gives me advice on a few issues here and there. And I believe that Mount Kenya region, like any other region, has a right to even have a conversation as a region, and to perhaps maybe fully back the deputy president, because as I speak we have the factions led by Kioni and my good mentor and friend Martha Karua. It is very important for every region to have a solid base so that they can negotiate for their people or on behalf of their people in this country. And like my senior has said here, we cannot be oblivious of the fact that Kenyans vote along tribal lines, and a divided Mount Kenya is not in the best interest of its people. A divided Mount Kenya is open to exploitation.
Was there a risk of division within Mount Kenya?
There has always been, because even in the last election, the the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, was leading a faction, and the people decided to move in a different direction. So at the end of the day, it is very important as a community to know that moving forward, our unity is what matters most, because we can be able to say, politics is numbers. What are we bringing to the table? Are we bringing a region that is divided, that's bringing a section of the votes? Are we bringing the entire full basket? So that we can be able to shape the narrative for Mount Kenya region. And if you look at the political patterns and voting patterns since independence, we've had the Kikuyu community, Kalenjin community, exchanging the presidency. Why? Because of monopoly of numbers. But the target, and of course, going forward, we have the Gen Z. You talk to a Gen Z right now, they're not really inculcated into voting along tribal lines. So that is also an aspect to look at going forward in the future. But it is important as of now, in regard to the next, the foreseeable future, for Mount Kenya to remain united. Because even Ukambani, they really fully back Kalonzo Musyoka. The direction he took in the last election is, on a general perspective, the direction that the Ukambani voting pattern took.
Okay. So at least in Mount Kenya region, we see there's what they call Limuru 3. We expect that most leaders from that region, and it's across the political divide. That's why even Jeremiah Kioni and Martha Karua are extending an olive branch to the deputy president, that will happen. But on the other hand, we're also seeing something that could be christened Solidarity Alliance very soon. And this brings together Kalonzo Musyoka and what they call his lieutenants, Eugene Wamalwa and George Wajakoya, Kanus Gideon Moi, and Usawa kwa wote party leader Mwangi wa Iria, who appear to have also seen an opportunity in Mount Kenya region, that they could probably venture into areas like Embu, Kirinyaga, and probably have them vote alongside Ukambani. And it's an opportunity as well for Kalonzo, don't you think, Bwana Mutambo?
Before I go to the Kalonzo Musyoka, I listen to people talk about Mount Kenya. And what I get mostly is that many people underestimate that region. People of Mount Kenya, they can't get divided. But the leaders can be divided. Mm-hmm. Mount Kenya, for your information, and my sister here will bear me witness, they don't vote for anybody. They vote against. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether you know what I mean.
Kindly expound on that.
Mount Kenya, they vote for what they don't like. They don't vote because they like you. They go out to vote because they don't like that person. Mm-hmm. Right? If the person who is vying is their favorite, there could be voter apathy. Mm-hmm. We are talking about Limuru 3. There was the Limuru 2, which was led by the former president. Mm-hmm. Did they adhere to Limuru 2? No. They voted to the last man, to Ruto, because they are voting against somebody. If you analyze our politics and you are interested in Mount Kenya, you need to understand those people. They don't leave one another. Okay. Their leaders can decide whatever they want to do, and they tell them do that. Even my sister, she will be very cautious when she's approaching people from Mount Kenya. Mm-hmm. You can tell us what you want, what you think, but we will do what we think is right. Those are people of Mount Kenya. Yeah. I'm blessed to have somebody from there. I'm married that side, yeah. So I know a bit of history. All right? So what am I saying? As we go to the issue of the alliances of Kalonzo Musyoka. Somebody told me, show me your friends and I will tell you what kind of a person you are. Mm-hmm. All right? I am not negating the efforts of all these leaders. Wajakoya is a very good friend of mine. I have no problem with him. I am not negating the efforts of Mwangi wa Iria. But there is a but. This alliance, Kenyans look at people. Who is that? I can tell you today, Edmuli, Somebody can take a bill in parliament and it is passed tomorrow. And another person takes the same bill tomorrow and it is brought down. They look at who are you, who do you associate yourself with, and what policies do they have. So, for Kalonzo Musyoka, which the people of Ukambani, including me, believes that he has a very good chance. But that chance needs to be cultivated very well and calculated. The moves he makes will determine whether he will be the president of this republic or not. The people he associates himself with. And if I was in a position to advise him, which actually I would love to, right? You need to look at the kind of people you associate yourself with. What actions are you making? Who are you bringing on the board? Because like I alluded before, the person whom we thought could be our biggest supporter today, who is Raila Amolo Odinga, could be with us as Kamba Nation, as we forge forward, has been fished to the other side. That's a very big blow to Kalonzo Musyoka, let me tell you.
It would appear now that Kalonzo is interested in trying to bring together counties that initially made the former Eastern Province, including Isiolo, Marsabit, Embu, Makueni, Kitui, and Machakos, meaning that he would look to eat into part of Mount Kenya region. That is a very bold move, if at all he can manage that. Do you think that would work, Bwana Mutambo?
I will simply go to here, you are bringing counties. What numbers do they have? Doesn't matter, you have 30 counties, and they don't even get you 30% of the votes of this country. I will concentrate with the rich counties. I will concentrate with the region. I will try to work very closely with the Mount Kenya. If I was Kalonzo today, I would call this lady and take her for breakfast and another one for dinner tomorrow morning. Because I know what they possess, what they are politically. All right? But if you are an angry man and you go to a house of an angry man, what are you doing? You don't have numbers. And you are now trying to get the counties without no numbers. Isiolo, Mandela, how many numbers do they have? I would waste my energy trying to consolidate Nairobi as Kalonzo Musyoka. I will use all my efforts to make sure that Mount Kenya listens to Kalonzo Musyoka. And that's what we want to do.
It would appear Kalonzo has seen an opportunity there that probably some counties like Embu and probably even Kirinyaga to some extent could actually vote a different way. There could be a crack within Mount Kenya.
It is very important to note that having political influence is something that you must cultivate. And I can assure you for a fact that Kalonzo Musyoka has no political influence in Kirinyaga County, even in Embu County, because they're my neighbors. And it is quite unfortunate, like my senior has said here, that if you're looking for votes, you do not go to hunt where you know you have no roots. You go to hunt where you have an expectation of getting something in plentiful, because at the end of the day, politics is about numbers. What is he doing to cultivate the voter base that he is targeting? Say, for example, Kirinyaga County, you know? And of course, there has been arguments that this Raila, President Ruto dalliance is going to sidestep the deputy president or Mount Kenya region as a whole. And I know for a fact that the president is a very astute politician, and he would be very keen not to be seen to perpetuate what the former president perpetuated upon him as his deputy. What Mount Kenya region hates the most is betrayal. And I can tell you for a fact that they did not only vote for President William Samoei Ruto as a protest to Raila Amolo Odinga's presidency. They saw him as the underdog who was being mistreated or maltreated by his boss at the time. They felt that the dalliance and the ultimate betrayal of the former president to the current president given the fact that, they ran together on a ticket a term of 10 years, and it was expected that the former president would willingly support the current president.
Isn't the feeling that this could be repeating itself this time round?
That is why I have said. That is why I have said.
With the president.
That is why I have
said that
it is a very tricky path to walk, because I know for a fact that the president would be very, very cautious not to be seen as perpetuating what he received at the hands of his then boss to his current deputy president, because it would change the dynamics and even the outlook of how people view the president. And if you recall, women vote very emotively. Women were very passionate about the presidency of William Samoei Ruto, because from the perspective of a Kenyan voter on a general aspect, they vote on an emotional basis. But then women felt that, he had been shortchanged. When we did the rallies, they'd be very emotional and combative about it. Why is the president the then president, making his deputy undergo through all these, humiliating him and all those nitty-gritties that we saw at the time. So I know for a fact he'd be very cautious to walk down that path, because it is quite a dangerous path to walk. So it is yet to be seen, and it is yet to unfold on what we expect in the 3 years to come. But I do not expect him to make such a mistake, because it would be a very costly mistake.
Okay. So we've seen there's Limuru 3, meaning Mount Kenya region. We're seeing Kalonzo and Ukambani region leading the other. Western region, where do we leave that? And Nyanza region, which have been previously strong political bases for Raila Odinga. Bwana Mutambo, you have experience in working with these politicians. Where do you see, we saw what happened in Homa Bay, for example, the kind of welcome President William Ruto received. Are we saying we expect a total shift in how these voter bases go to the ballot?
One, if there are any loyal communities in this country, one of them is people from Nyanza, Luo Nyanza. They are very loyal. And it doesn't matter what you do outside. What matters is what they do inside, with their own people, with their own leaders. That is Mount Kenya. That is Nyanza for you. Today, and knowing my good friend Raila very well, someone who can cause a lot of surprises, even to the president. He can pull a carpet on his feet. Today they can court, because he wants to be a chairman of AU. God forbid he misses it. What you expect in 2027 is something totally different. And that will not make anybody, any candidate to smile, because Raila has gone to be with Ruto. No. Raila is someone else. And it's somebody whom you cannot predict his next move. All right? So as we talk about national politics and who is who where and who is doing what there, I want to tell my sister that she's saying that we have to wait what will happen in the next 3 years. But sometimes people listen to what you are not saying. Sometimes people listen to what you are not saying. Today, people are listening to what Ruto is not doing. They are seeing it. What he's not saying, they are seeing it. And that's why you see there's a volcano in the mountain. So we are trying to cool the ashes. Coming back to Kalonzo, I will be the first person to support Kalonzo once he becomes a candidate. Because there's no way, let me tell you, there is no way I will support any other person when my good friend Kalonzo Musyoka is vying. But before Kalonzo vies, there are so many other things which need to be done. Okay? So that they can now get that confidence. Because she said that Kalonzo don't have political powers in Kirinyaga. He has no influence anywhere. But if I was Kalonzo, I will not need to go there myself. God did not come to the earth. He sent somebody. Okay? Jesus. And people believed. So Kalonzo can equally do the same and get that particular person who has influence in Kirinyaga and bring him in his back pocket.
Do you think that the disquiet in Mount Kenya is probably what is encouraging Kalonzo to venture into that area?
It could be, well, not only Mount Kenya. I will tell you straight on your face. What is happening with Ruto's presidency, what Ruto is doing to people, what people are feeling about Ruto is what is encouraging even me to vie tomorrow as the president of this country.
Okay.
Yes, because Ruto has done so many things which are causing aspersions to people, which are causing grief, which people are asking themselves questions. And allow me to use this opportunity to tell you this, because I come from Ukambani. Kamba people are saying that we gave Ruto that 20 to almost 30%. That's a substantial number because he got the 25% from all the counties in Ukambani. All right, so that propelled him to status. But now, when it comes to development in Ukambani, Ruto has neglected it, and I have no shame to tell him so. Ruto has made so many trips to Western developmental. Not the church thing. He has made so many to Nyanza. He has made so many to Central. He has done so many to Mombasa. Tell me one single visit or presidential visit of development in Ukambani. He has done none until today. He has hosted leaders from all across the country, but he has never hosted a single meeting for Kamba leaders in his state house until today. Okay. And he has people who followed him. Okay? I was on the other side, and I can confess today I voted for him. I was on the other side, but he convinced me and I voted for him. So Kambas are crying for that kind of leadership to be seen in Ukambani. And that's why they are saying it's better our own son, including me.
And Jeremiah.
You know, and it is very unfortunate to be on national television and speak or allege that the president has not launched any projects in Ukambani. And I just want to appreciate the fact, and this is on record, and I know you can access the same on Google, that the president has launched over 5,000 housing units in Machakos. The president has also launched a water supply project in Mavoko. And I really want to ask, isn't Mavoko in Ukambani? Isn't Machakos in Ukambani? No, let me finish. The president, in 2023, April, he had a 2-day development tour in Ukambani. I mean, it is very unfortunate that we can sit here on a national platform and allege that he has not visited regions that did not even perhaps vote for him, like Homa Bay. It is quite unfortunate. And we must speak the truth. You know, I know that... Let me first finish. There's a politics of it. Let me first finish. There is a politics of it, you know, and we can politicize the issue, but we cannot lie to Kenyans that the president has not visited various regions, even the ones who did not vote for him.
Okay, my dear, let me answer. And I want to answer you with what you have just showed us. The Mavoko project, and I want to tell you this, I was the chairman of Water Resources Authority. Mavoko project was done way before Ruto became a president. That project. So he found it there. Done. The Mavoko housing, all right? That project was started by Uhuru Kenyatta, and I was in that meeting. All right? The developmental tours you are talking about, the 2 days, Ruto came to the church with a Bible, for your information. What I would love you to tell Kambas, let me be now tribal, is that on this particular day, Ruto came and the only other thing Ruto came to do is he went to Makueni to plant the trees. And for your information, there is no rain in Makueni. Even the tree planted died. So is that what you're telling me, development for campus? No. I will fight for rights of campus irrespective of who feels what about me. So whatever you are telling me here, this is not nothing new. Okay. How do you go launch a project which was started by another regime and
our time is almost up, but I'll give you each about a minute for your final words.
It was complete before he came to power. You know,
final words.
You know, my senior forgets that the presidency is successive. Perhaps I can initiate a project that is not funded, but it is funded by the
For your
successive
information,
governments.
this was complete,
So
and
at
we
the
were
end of the
drinking that
day,
water.
at the end of the day,
that water.
Because we need to finish.
at the end of the day, he did say that he has not even been to Makueni, or rather Ukambani, to launch any project.
Tell me which
and
one.
there is information that he has actually been there. Now
Which
he has
one?
realized that there's actual evidence he's been there to launch development projects and change the narrative. I really just want...
he did not come to launch, he came to commission.
to conclude by
he
saying...
came to commission, there's a difference.
Okay.
Launching and commissioning is two different things.
The mountain...
He came to commission.
The mountain is not... the mountain is not... it is not... there's no volcano in the mountain. And like I have said that politics is about interest. And it is important for the Mount Kenya region to consolidate their voter base and also consolidate their support for the current deputy president so that he's even able to negotiate on behalf of the mountain with the president. Because at the end of the day, it's about numbers. The political cards that will be pulled in 2027, we can only cast aspersions right now, but it can only wait. It can only be seen when the time is ripe.
Okay. Finally, Bwana Mutambo.
I want to tell my sister, if you love a president, don't tell him what you want to hear. I love him so much. He's a very good friend of mine. He's somebody who has dined in my house. So I love him so much. I will not lie to him that Kambas are happy. Those who are around him, because they are protecting their position which is given them, they'll tell him, Your Excellency, Ukambani Kosawa. I'll tell him you are being cheated and lied to. Right? If you sit here and you say there is no volcano in Mount Kenya, I tell you, you are not doing service to him. You are doing a disservice to your president whom you love.
Okay.
You need to tell him where the problem is so that he can go and deal with it. But the moment you tell him it's all well, he will sit pretty at the house, the State House. And what will happen to him in 2027, God knows. So my take is this. Mr. President, love me or hate me, I will tell you as it is, that there is a problem here. I will tell you, Mr. President, as you are right person here saying, you went to Mavoko, that water was ready and you are drinking it and it was launched long time ago. You did not launch it, you went to commission, something which was ready. Campers are waiting for you to come and... You cannot tell me Ruto went to build Dhake. Dhake, even the budget, we had done it before. Everything was there. So you cannot tell me he has brought it. I want him to bring something totally different so that we recognize him.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you so much, Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central and Jerry Maina, woman representative, Kirinyaga County. Today on State of the Politics, thank you so much for your very well-considered opinions on what's happening, especially in Mount Kenya and Ukambani and other regions in Kenya with the expected exit of Raila Odinga from local politics. Now straight to our editorial comment this week. Last week in Murang'a, a startling scene unfolded as MPs joined local farmers in forcibly chasing away Kenya Revenue Authority officials tasked with implementing a new tax on horticultural produce. The spectacle exposed a disconnect between lawmakers and their actions in Bunge, as it is the same legislators who had voted to pass the law that they now vehemently opposed in public. The levy linked with the electronic tax invoice management system, ETIMS, requires farmers to adhere to specific documentation requirements for their transactions. While the expressed intention is to streamline tax collection and curb revenue leakage, the practical implications have proven burdensome for some farmers, leading to disruptions in their trade relationships and market access. Now, some MPs from the region joined in chasing away the KRA officials, attempting to explain the law's provisions, the same law that they voted for and passed in Parliament. It is this two-faced behavior that we seek to call out today. How can an MP support a law inside Parliament and then oppose the same outside the House? It is evident that far too often elected officials prioritize party allegiance when voting in Parliament, despite the obvious consequences for their constituents. As citizens, we must demand better. We must demand